Hey everyone, and welcome to another fragrance review. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel and watching my videos. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a fragrance from the company Reyane Tradition, and the fragrance on today's lineup is a fragrance called Insurrection Dark, or it also goes by another name, Insurrection 2 Dark. So this fragrance that you see here in front of me was released in 2014. It is actually the most recent release from the company, and the perfumer for this fragrance is Nejla Barbir. Nejla Barbir has done every fragrance in this company. I know they currently have 6 in their online database. 3 are for men, 3 are for women, so she does cater to both crowds just the same, just evenly. Now, one thing that I want you to keep in mind before I proceed with this review is that if you're looking for this fragrance, just make sure you buy the one that has the black box with the red embellishments on it. There's another one called Insurrection Pure, which has a white box, and the bottle is different. It's white I think it fades into clear or something like that. So just make sure you don't make that mistake when you're out there to buy this fragrance, if indeed you're interested in purchasing it. So I believe they were both released at the same time, so they're like counterparts of each other. Now, this company was founded back in 2010. The earliest release, like I said, is 2011, and this is the most recent one. Now, back in 2003, another thing that's quite fascinating about Nejla Barbir, who has done a few fragrances. I know she's done one for Dior called Dune. She's actually a chemist. She has a PhD in chemistry, and she has a lot of experience, in composing fragrances and the genetic makeup of fragrances. So I think her background in chemistry is going to help her a lot here. But one thing that I found out when doing my research for this fragrance is back in 2003, she actually created her own company called Perfumer, not to be confused with Perfumer, which is an online retailer of discounted men's and women's fragrances, as I'm sure you know. But in her company that she founded back in 2003, Perfumer, what they do is they use the most recent robotic technology to create perfume chemicals. So when I initially heard that, that told me 4 things rather. 4 things to be on the lookout for. One, because she created her company in 2003 and this succeeded that, she may be using the techniques that she uses in her company to create her fragrances. So that's one thing that I'm keeping in the back of my mind. The second thing that it probably tells me about this fragrance is that this is going to be mainly, if not mostly, synthetic. Now, that does not necessarily connote a bad thing. It's not, synonymous with bad or anything like that. Just because it's synthetic, it might still actually come out smelling very, very good. The third thing that this tells me is that she may be using a process, that's generally described as robotic technology. She may be using a process called reverse engineering. Now, reverse engineering in the composition of perfumes is something that includes 2 methods. One of them called gas chromatography, the other one called mass spectrometry. And what that is they basically use machines to extract the genetic makeup of certain fragrances, to extract the DNA of those fragrances, and that in turn tells you how they're composed or how they're put together. And with her PhD in chemistry, that's very well possible. So that's the other thing that tells me about this fragrance. The very last thing that it tells me is that this fragrance may resemble one that's already in existence, if indeed reverse engineering was used in the composition or in the creation of this fragrance. So I'm going to let you know if I think this fragrance resembles one that's already in existence. But next up, let's take a look at the presentation for Insurrection Dark by Reyane Tradition. Insurrection Dark is available in one size, the 100 milliliter size, and this fragrance is only available in eau de toilette concentration. So first up, let's take a look at the box. This is actually a beautiful presentation, guys. Over here on the box, it's actually very sturdy construction, very thick cardboard. It does not have really any give to it. Down here at the bottom right-hand corner, you have dark written. Just keep that in mind when you're looking to make a purchase for this fragrance. Don't buy the one that says pure. Get the one that says dark if this is the one that you're looking for. So really nice felt pattern here all over the box. On the side here, you have Insurrection 2 written. The 2 is because they do have another fragrance called Insurrection, simply called Insurrection. So this is like the successor or the sequel to that, if you will. You have the name of the company up here at the top with the insignia, ingredients, UPC code, some other information down here at the bottom, and just really, really nice presentation. Over here on the side, you have this little flap with the insignia on it as well. Same one that you get on the top and the bottom of the box. You open it up and it reveals this foam padding on the inside with the silhouette of the bottle carved into it, and this little ribbon that you pull. So basically when the bottle is resting in here, you pull this ribbon up, and it's very easy to remove it pretty much. So I really like this because look at the attention to detail. They even have the insignia on the little, metal piece attached to the ribbon. I just think that that is, above and beyond what they had to do. And down here at the bottom, it says Reyane Tradition, Paris. Same thing over here at the top. So a lot of attention to detail with this presentation. Over here, as far as the bottle goes, again, beautiful presentation. You have the dark red down here at the bottom, fades into the black. You have For Man written on the cap with Paris written on the other side. And then you have the insignia at the very top. But look at the side here. The insignia, Insurrection 2. It's just beautiful, the shape of the bottle, the attention to detail. You can tell that a lot went into the presentation of this fragrance. The cap comes off. The atomizer is also beastly on this one, guys. Look at this. Sprays out a lot of juice and a pretty good distribution. The cap clicks into place very securely so that you can lift it up from the cap. You don't need to worry about it falling apart or coming off. And just really nice presentation. This is excellent in my books. That has pretty much been the presentation for Insurrection Dark by Reyane Tradition. Now, what I get from the smell of this fragrance is right when it opens up, immediately it reminds me of another fragrance. And that fragrance, and I made the connection the instant that I first smelled it, is a fragrance by Viktor and Rolf called Spice Bomb. Now, many of us know that that was like the best-selling fragrance in the past couple of years or whatever, and it's a fragrance that's very, very popular. So no one up until now has attempted to knock it off. I think that with this fragrance, if you have smelled Spice Bomb, it's going to be very, very evident to you that there's a connection between the two. So basically, what does this smell like? It opens up with a sweetness to it. It could be cinnamon, it could be tonka bean, it could be, I know coumarin is listed as an O, which is a crystal found in tonka bean, and it does kind of have like this nutty, waxy sweetness to it. So it could be that, perhaps maybe some vanilla, but it opens up with a sweetness to it, but it's rosy at the same time, and it has a smooth quality to it. As it starts to dry down, it becomes very waxy on my skin. Now, the best way that I can describe this is if you've ever smelled Spice Bomb, imagine smelling a Spice Bomb scented candle. That's what it reminds me of, like a waxier version of Spice Bomb. The unusual thing about this fragrance, though, is when it starts to dry down, it starts to acquire this pseudo-herbal quality to it. And I say pseudo because it doesn't necessarily remind me of any one particular herb that I've come across, in my culinary experiences, if you will. But it does bear resemblance to another fragrance, and I know this is an obscure reference, but it reminds me of a fragrance by État Libre d'Orange called Fille de Dieu du Riz et des Agrumes. It was formerly known as Philippine Houseboy. But the thing that's so unique about that fragrance is it uses the note of shiso, which is an herb that's related to, it's part of the mint family, I think, but it also smells like basil and cilantro. And this fragrance kind of reminds me of that note, that shiso note. In the dry down, it does start to acquire this herbal quality, but again, it could be another ingredient in there kind of working together to give off that impression, but it really does give me that sort of vibe. It's smooth, it's kind of rosy, which could be because it uses the aroma chemical geraniol. It's kind of rosy, it's smooth, it's just a tad bit spicy, and it's very waxy. For me, the waxiness is something that I would probably compare to the smell of tuberose, maybe like iris too. I know I don't necessarily pick out iris in this fragrance. I think it would have been very clear if it did contain iris. But it's like a spicy, sweet, waxy characteristic that I get from this fragrance, and it does remind me a lot of Spice Bomb. Unfortunately, that kind of gives me the impression that reverse engineering may have been used to create this fragrance, especially considering the price point. This is a very synthetic fragrance, but it still smells very good. I want to get that out there. I don't want people to think that I'm, bashing this fragrance or saying negative things about it. I think in terms of being unique and creative merit, aesthetic merit, this one does not have any. I think this is in many ways a knockoff of Spice Bomb, but if you already own Spice Bomb, this may be a redundant purchase for you. I would not recommend owning both. I made the mistake of owning both. I would not recommend owning both. I think the better version would be Spice Bomb. Now, if you are on a tight budget, and you have about $20, $30 to spare, I think this is a great substitution. It is by no stretch of the imagination a replacement, but I think this is a very good substitution for Spice Bomb. So bottom line for this fragrance, very smooth, kind of rosy, kind of spicy. It has a sweetness to it, kind of nutty. It dries down to something waxy, and for me, to my nose, it starts to acquire this pseudo-herbal quality to it. Very weird. You kind of have to smell it to know what I'm talking about. But in terms of compliments or complaints, I think this fragrance is going to get you a compliment. Yeah, it's a very good smell, it's a pleasant smell, and it's very close to Spice Bomb. I would say the resemblance is like 90 to 95%. So it's a very, very close smelling fragrance to Spice Bomb. So I think with that fragrance, of course, I have gotten a lot of luck. I've received many compliments with that fragrance. I haven't been wearing this one out in public too much, but I can only imagine that I would receive many compliments for it. And lastly, have I worn this fragrance outside of testing? No, I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't plan on wearing this fragrance outside of testing. I mean, I have Spice Bomb. Spice Bomb is one of my favorite fragrances. And if I'm craving Spice Bomb, I'm just gonna go for Spice Bomb. I'm not gonna go for this fragrance. But again, if you're on a tight budget, I think this is an excellent substitution for Spice Bomb. So that was it, guys, for the smell. Last up, we have the rating. Take care. First up, we have uniqueness and overall smell. And I ended up giving this fragrance a 7 out of 10. I think that it's a very, very good smell. Again, my only qualm, my only concern with it is that it's not very original. It doesn't have uniqueness. I do think that reverse engineering was used, and it is in many ways a knockoff of Spice Bomb. So I did have to take some points off of that, but again, those of you who follow my channel know that I absolutely love Spice Bomb. So of course I can't go without liking this fragrance. I actually do like the way that it smells, so I ended up giving it a 7 out of 10 for smell. Next up, we have longevity. I ended up giving this fragrance a 5 out of 10. Now, this is an eau de toilette concentration, so 4 to 6 hours is expected. I have gotten as few as 3 hours, but on average, I do get 5 hours, so I ended up giving it a 5. Same thing for projection. I don't think projection is great. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 10. I think it's average. It's not a skin scent, but at the same time, it doesn't jump off and radiate beyond an arm's length to the point where it's going to get you noticed and it's going to fill up an entire room. I think it's just average, so I ended up giving it a 5. Next up, we have versatility. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. First off, I know it has for man written on the cap and everything. I think this is a unisex fragrance. I think anybody can wear it. I can definitely picture a woman wearing this fragrance, especially because of that waxy characteristic that I keep talking about. I think this one is affordable enough that you can wear it all the time. I think this is signature scent worthy. I think that you can wear this dressed up, dressed down. The affordability really promotes that. And I think in terms of seasons, you can wear this in the cold weather. I think the spicy qualities in the opening and the sweetness makes it appropriate for that, whereas the waxiness and the lack of performance, if you will, makes it appropriate for the hotter weather, or it would actually do better in the hotter weather. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is a year-round fragrance, and I think anybody can wear it. Everybody from a teenager all the way up to somebody in their 50s and 60s. There's really nothing wrong with this fragrance. I think it's a great smell, very versatile. And then lastly, we have the presentation. I already told you guys what I think about that. I ended up giving it a 9 out of 10 for presentation, and then that brings this fragrance to an overall rating or an average score of a 7 out of 10. So there you have it. That was my review of Insurrection Dark by Reyane Tradition. Thank you so much for watching. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think by leaving a comment down below. Also, please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to shoot me a message. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Steven with another fragrance review from Radolescence. See you next time.